It is the year 3000. The world is now exposed to all alien races, and technology has significantly progressed. Progressed to the point that time travel is now possible. However, knowing that there can be consequences if used for the wrong reasons, a special police force has been made to be prepared for such instances. Also, criminals are sentenced to freeze compression. They are shrunk into action figure size and then frozen. Just recently, the future police have caught Don Dodonero, a big-time extraterrestrial mob boss. However, his people have infiltrated police headquarters and to bust him out along with the other frozen criminals. Now they have traveled to the year 2000 to fuck some shit up and make some money on the way. From the Time Police, Captain Ryuya brings four new cadets to go with him in time to catch Dodonero. Our team consists of Yuri, Time Pink, a police officer from the Future Organized Crime Division. Ayase, Time Blue, a former race car driver. Domon, Time Yellow, a skirt-chasing washed-up intergalactic MMA fighter who was banned for not showing up to his fights. And yes, before I move on, the Yellow Ranger in this series was originally a guy just like how it was in Jew Ranger. And last, there's the childlike Sion, Time Green, who was the last of an alien race. Upon arrival to the year 2000, Captain Ryuya reveals to be Leela, one of Dodonero's henchmen in disguise. She destroys their time machine and leaves them stranded. Shortly after the explosion, Asami Tatsuya, a karate champion and the son of one of Japan's richest men that also resembles Captain Ryuya, finds the team and becomes Time Red. And together, they become the Time Rangers. Then as the series progresses, a new Time Ranger will come about, and that will be Takizawa Naoto, Time Fire, a former rival of Tatsuya's from his karate days, who works for Tatsuya's father's city guardians. The series' tone is very intense and can be very dark at times, but of course will have some more of its humorous moments. The humor does get way out there at times, especially the episode where Tatsuya, Ayase, and Domon are after a marriage swindler, and Yuri has to stop them with her own charms. But I do feel that its humor, the humor doesn't really overall hurt the pace and atmosphere of the show. Considering that this is a children's program, the humor needs to be there, and I did get a kick out of it. Even though this is a series that could have potentially been a Tabula Rasa series in the definition that the character development may not be necessary since being a Power Ranger or a Sentai hero is their job, it is still a very strongly character-driven series. Even though they are Time Rangers as part of their occupation, most of the characters had outside dreams and ambitions to begin with, as stated earlier. Domon and Ayase had different things going on, but circumstances couldn't let them pursue their dreams, so they became Time Rangers. I already stated why Domon became a Time Ranger, but as for why Ayase gave up on racing, that would be a very significant spoiler, but those reasons is what makes it worth, caring about him. Also, Domon and Ayase always antagonize each other because of their personality differences, and it does add humor to the show in that way as well. And you do see that their relationship develops as the show progresses. Sion is very childlike and virtually everything makes him excited and curious. There are reasons behind his personality in addition to being an alien, and those other reasons would be spoilers as well. Yuri was always a police officer, but why she became a police officer is shown in this series and why she is determined to do her job. And Tatsuya, even though he is yes and no forced into a situation, being a Time Ranger is something that he chooses to do in the end. He feels that not only he can help people, but he feels he can prove something to himself due to the issues he has with his father. Naoto also feels he has something to prove, but he is driven by wanting power and respect. And even though the team doesn't really accept Tatsuya at first, by the end, they do accept him. Even though the Red Ranger is traditionally the leader, the true leader in this series is Yuri. She is the brains of the operations and has the most experience as a police officer. But of course there are things that Tatsuya does. And he is a leader in the way that he's the heart of the team and tries to get to know and get along with everyone. And if you're familiar with Time Ranger through Power Rangers Time Force, you know that Time Fire is also a Red Ranger. Yes, I believe this is the first series in which it has two Red Rangers. Time Fire, or the Quantum Ranger in Power Rangers Time Force, is red but had a black shade as opposed to a white, and the visor had some more spikes, so I thought it was interesting to have two Red Rangers. The villains are kind of more offbeat from the usual Sentai villains. Yes, Dodonero wants power, but most of his schemes revolve around getting money, which is kind of strange. Like, why the hell does he need money? He can just take shit and make people his slaves. Considering their gimmick is that they are more of an organized crime syndicate, I can see why he wants money. However, his right-hand man, or robot Gian, is more motivated by killing and destruction, and Leela is mostly motivated by money, jewelry, and clothes. The monsters are also interesting considering that they are criminals with extreme backgrounds. Also, there will be the monster that is really harmless but is forced to fight. The monsters have all their own unique gimmicks and bring their own distinct world-ending threat. And I felt a major flaw was the relationship between Yuri and Tatsuya. I felt it was just forced, just to give the show some tense romantic tension, and I felt it wasn't really necessary. I also felt that Fire was introduced a little late, and I think a lot more could have been done with him. But in the end, I thought things were well resolved and it has a semi-happy ending. And for that, I give the story and characters a 9 out of 10. The action is also pretty solid. In the first few episodes, it will spoof some scenes from The Matrix, but after that, the whole time manipulation thing isn't really used again until Sion fights this fast bodyguard. The weapons they use are much bigger than what you are used to in other Sentai series, so they really hold out the big guns in this one. What I thought was really underused was the Rangers fighting out of costume. It didn't really stand out to me in the way that Jew Ranger and Bioman did. These characters, had prior training, so I felt, them trying to fight out of costume could have been more utilized. Maybe you're free to disagree with me on this issue, but, that's how I feel. But considering the threat of the monsters, I could understand why they had to change right away. But the only uncostumed fights that stand out to me are the ones with Ryuya and Naoto, which were pretty cool considering they were accomplished karate fighters to begin with. The fights in costume in contrast are pretty cool and exciting. The fights have a more feeling of danger compared to some other series, and the grunts are pretty strong as well. And if I told you how strong they were, it would really be a spoiler. The mech designs are pretty cool. There is the alpha and beta formations, and each have their own distinct use. The Time Shadow is essentially the Tetra Boy or Tackle Boy of this series. And it's pretty badass. The combinations are cool as well. And then there's the V-Rex, which is also something Jew Ranger fans may like considering it reminds me of the Tyranno mech mixed with the Dragon Caesar. But I feel the fights can be a bit too fast, the mech fights that is, and the launching the time jets, especially in the first third of the series, is a bit time consuming. I also like that the fights do rely on strategy at times as well. So I leave the action at an 8.25 out of 10. The music is just very awesome. It really has this intensity that uses a good mix of jazz and synthesizers to reflect the cop and futuristic feel. The opening thing has a hook that has this more gospel-like feel to it. The ending thing also brings this cop drama-like sound to it as well. There is also this song where Time Fire transforms, forgot which episode, but the background track was really cool. Some of the insert songs from the holiday specials and the ending are of top quality. And I got nothing much, to say about the music but positive things, and leave it at a perfect 10 out of 10. For those that are familiar with this show and Time Force, many Sentai fans give Time Force praise for being faithful to this original Sentai series. I have not watched Time Force since its broadcast from 10 years ago, but I remember the Pink Ranger from that series was also effective as a leader, and that the Red Ranger from that series came from a rich family, and that the city guardians of that city are also directly taken from Time Ranger as well, which I thought was really cool. Also the the relationship between the Red Ranger and the Quantum Ranger. But what I did like better in Time Force was the chemistry and the romance between the Pink and Red Ranger, considering that the Pink Ranger in Time Force was engaged to the Red Ranger of her era, while in Time Ranger, this was really forced here, and Captain Ryuya was a dick anyway. Also, if you've seen Gokaiger, then you already have certain aspects of this series spoiled for you, especially in relation to Time Yellow and Time Fire. But yes, this series does inspire me to watch Time Force again to compare the two series. I know Power Rangers came out on DVD in America, so the next time I visit home, I'll be sure to get them. But this series itself is amazing. You really could see the characters grow individually and as a team. Each character has their own use to the team and the themes of what defines destiny, and your choice is very well presented in this series. And just because you're already from some future doesn't mean that the future is set, so destiny's always in your hands. And for that, I give Time Ranger its destiny of an overall score of a 9.1 out of 10.